the July 12th, 2021 City Council work session. Thank you for joining us in this remote meeting format that enables the City Council to meet and take care of business while keeping everyone safe. For work sessions like this one where there is no opportunity for public comment, those wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by calling into one of the phone numbers listed for this meeting on the public webcast and meeting materials web page. Looking ahead, tonight's regular meeting will include a public forum. Information about how to participate is available on the public webcast and meeting materials webpage. And as always, other forms of communication with me and city councilors are available, including email and voicemail. Thank you all again for joining us on this warm summer evening. And with that, I am going to turn it over to the city manager to introduce the first item.
Yep, so we have a couple of great topics tonight, and I think it's almost the all PDD show all night long. And Amanda Noble Flannery is joining me now to sort of kick off our first topic.
Good evening. We're happy to be here tonight to discuss the first program review for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and next year's allocation. Before I pass it to Ellen, I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce you to our new grants manager, Genevieve Middleton. She started in June, and we're very fortunate to have her join community development. As the grants manager, Genevieve oversees our affordable housing opportunities and services programs and leads a small but mighty team of amazing staff in the community development division who do this important work. You'll be hearing from Genevieve about the CDBG allocation next spring, if not before, on any number of other great affordable housing work. And with that, I'll pass it over to Ellen to talk about the trust fund.
Hi, thank you, Amanda. Let me share my screen. Good afternoon. I'm Ellen May Galloway with Community Development. At this work session, we'll discuss the 2021 program review of the Construction Excise Tax, or CET, and Affordable Housing Trust Fund program, which is required by the CET ordinance that was passed in 2019. The program review includes information about the activities to date since the ordinance was adopted. We'll also discuss the uses of affordable housing trust funds for fiscal year 22. The CET is a tax collected by the city at the time of issuing building permits. The tax is a percentage of the residential and commercial permit valuation, specifically for new structures, additional square footage to existing structures, and additional living space to existing structures. 15% of the residential CET collected is required to be remitted to the state and is returned to the local community for homebuyer assistance for low and moderate income households. The remaining CET accrues in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, along with any general funds approved by council. CET and general funds are collected in one fiscal year to be implemented in the subsequent fiscal year. Funds can be used for programs, incentives, and services creating housing opportunities for households earning 100% of area median income and below. In March 2021, staff shared information with you about the Housing Tools and Strategies work, how that work has evolved, and staff's plans to develop a housing implementation pipeline, or HIP. Staff introduced the idea of a housing continuum that shows how different housing types relate to each other. It also demonstrates that each step of the housing ladder is an important part of the overall system, from temporary shelters to market rate housing. Eugene needs more housing across the housing continuum. so that households at all income levels can find housing that doesn't leave them housing cost burdened. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund programs relate to the affordable housing circle of the housing continuum, including the overlap with homeless and sheltered populations and the overlap with moderate income housing. Now we'll talk about the program activities to date since 2019. The city has collected CET for 2 years. In the first year of collection, the CET was assessed at 0.33% of permitted improvements. The percentage increased to 0.5% in the second year and will continue to be collected at that rate. During these 2 years, the actual cost of the CET for building permit applicants was offset by a reduction in system development charge fees, or SDCs, equal to the CET assessment, which meant there was no net gain in resources to the city. At the start of this fiscal year 22, the CET offsets expired, so the CET costs are now paid by permit holders. Permit fees were not increased with inflation this year because of the sunset of the CET offset. Since 2019, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Advisory Committee formed and became oriented to the needs of the community with input from affordable housing providers and advocates. The advisory committee made recommendations for the first year of implementation, including the fiscal year 21 allocation, the 2021 request for proposals, or RFP criteria, and the funding award for the 2021 RFP. The advisory committee made a recommendation for the fiscal year 22 allocation, which we will discuss shortly. Fiscal year 21 was the first year of implementation. In addition to the CET collected in fiscal year 20, Council had allocated general funds for a total of $800,000. Considering the economic impacts of the pandemic, Council allocated $500,000 for direct assistance to renters and homeowners. Council allocated $300,000 of the fiscal year 21 resources for the development of affordable housing. The city released a request for proposals in the spring. An evaluation subcommittee of the advisory committee scored the proposals in April 2021, and the advisory committee recommended funding for the Cornerstone Community Housing proposal, the Grove on Garden Way. City Council approved the funds for the recommended project on May 24th, 2021. The $300,000 trust fund investment will leverage a $33 million project. The new construction of a 4-story building with 122 affordable units targeted to households earning no more than 60% of area median income, including 7 units for survivors of domestic violence, plus one on-site manager unit. The development would include 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units for a total of 252 bedrooms. Cornerstone Community Housing received good news from Oregon Housing and Community Services in early July that the project was awarded state resources to move forward with the development. Now we'll talk about available resources for the new year. In fiscal year 21, the CET generated approximately $978,000 after the 15% of residential CET that was remitted to the state for homebuyer assistance. Council also approved $500,000 in general funds through the December 2020 supplemental budget. The total available for fiscal year 22 is over $1.4 million. Project Delivery Administration is estimated at 10% of the resources, which leaves approximately $1.3 million to allocate. Let's look at the possible uses of trust funds in fiscal year 22. The main categories of uses are direct assistance programs to renters and homeowners and housing development investments. Renter assistance can be used for rent, security deposits, arrears, and other assistance. Homeowner assistance can be for foreclosure prevention and mortgage arrears, or down payment assistance and closing costs for home buyers. development funds would create new housing opportunities. The advisory committee discussed the possible uses of affordable housing trust funds in fiscal year 22. With $34 million in rental assistance resources coming to Lane County through federal and state programs and the $12.4 million that's been spent on rent assistance since the pandemic began, Lane County reported that the amount of rent assistance in the community is expected to be sufficient through fiscal year 25. The advisory committee noted that the demand for development resources had been demonstrated when 2 development proposals were not funded with federal funds in the fall 2020 housing RFP, and 1 proposal was not awarded resources through the 2021 trust fund RFP. The city continues to receive requests for systems development charge assistance for developments targeted to households with lower incomes. The advisory committee recommended that a minimum of 75% of the net trust funds be allocated to housing development. The draft allocation showing 75% of the available funds for development and the remaining funds for direct assistance is in attachment D of your materials and on the next slide. The advisory committee also recommended that the direct assistance be prioritized for Black, Indigenous, and people of color, or BIPOC, individuals and households. Because of the racial wealth gap that was created by decades of discriminatory practices, barring BIPOC, individuals and households from homeownership in Oregon, access to the trust fund homebuyer resources would be affirmatively marketed directly to BIPOC, individuals and households. Considering the amount of rental assistance in the community, the demand for development resources to create affordable housing, and the advisory committee recommendation, the city manager recommends approval of the allocation in attachment D, which is shown here. We'll end the presentation with the next steps for implementation of the program. Staff will continue to implement the resources awarded in fiscal year 21 for the Grove on Garden Way development, and will implement the direct assistance resources for fiscal year 22. In the fall, staff will work with the advisory committee to establish RFP criteria for development projects. The RFP will be drafted and released in early 2022. Once proposals are submitted, they will be evaluated and the advisory committee will make a recommendation for funding. Council will decide on development project funding in spring 2022. And we're happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you so much. It is very exciting to be at this point and have really a significant budget to look at investing in funds. So I really appreciate that. It was a long pathway to bring us to this point, actually, and it's very exciting to be there. I'm opening the floor up for questions if there are counselors who have questions or comments about the report or any recommendations. Councilor Keating, Matt, take it away.
Thanks, Mayor. I didn't see it in the report. Ellen, thank you. I want to know if there was any conversation within the committee or if there's a possibility to explore using funds for renters to have, for lack of a better term, a one-stop shop for providing their application fee. I ask this because it's on top of mind as a renter who's looking for a new house to rent in South Eugene. My partner and I have to apply and pay a fee every single time we apply, or every single time just to get in line. So I wonder if there are any municipalities that have established a one-stop shop fee or one-stop shop disbursement program for renters who, whatever income threshold, to pay in one time, and landlords either voluntarily or however they're incentivized to participate, tap into this pool of resources, considering that you said we are satisfactory, I think was the language through 2025. I would love if we could be exceptional through 2025. And that's not a diss by any stretch of the imagination, but if there is any little anything we could do to help renters who are being nickel and dimed at $40 a pop, $80 here when they're looking for places, I would be thrilled to support that. Was there any conversation within committee about that? And do you know of any municipalities who have a similar program?
I don't know of any other municipalities who have a program specific to that, but those costs would be eligible under the rental assistance programs that we have through Lane County. It's supposed to be flexible assistance for renters. I think that Lane County, they distribute their rental assistance resources through lots of different partner agencies, and they just have been distributing so much rent assistance in the past year that they're just concerned about receiving even more funds to distribute. But we have been talking with Lane County about how if there are niches in the rental assistance that those other funding sources don't fill, and that's where we're trying to target these resources to further assist in ways that the other resources can't. So I think your idea is wonderful.
I don't want to take credit for it. It's not my idea. It's just the reality I'm faced with daily. There are a whole host of advocates out there who, CETA comes to mind, Springfield Eugene Tenant Association, who've brought this to my attention. I do believe Portland has a program similar. And if there's anything that I can do personally, or anything that we as a council can do to help advance the creation of said fund with our county partners for distribution to alleviate the burden that renters face trying to apply and coming up with additional funds every single time they apply, I think that would greatly relieve a significant burden to a whole swath of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily, and then Mike.
Thank you very much. I like that idea, Matt. I think probably wouldn't take the whole 25% for rental help, and if it could get people into, a way to attach on to all the help that's out there. I wonder if we want to put a bigger percent towards housing development in light of all the rental assistance. Not that I'm against rental assistance, but we've had a lot, and we're so desperate for housing. And last year we were gonna do it housing, and we switched to more towards rent, and I voted for that. But I just wonder what other people think if we might put more of the money into.
Thank you, Mike, and then Alan.
Thank you, Mayor. Ellen, thank you for the report and the slide presentation. I appreciate that. You mentioned 2020 number as being just under $1 million. Did I read that right? 998 or something like that.
The amount that would be for development assistance?
No, the amount that we took in is with the CET.
Oh, right. It was about 978,000, I think.
And as I recall, when we set this up, there were different calculations or different timing for multifamily versus single family homes, or the kind of construction, commercial or otherwise. I didn't see that separated out. Do you have any information on how that separates?
As far as what types of developments that you would want to see the resources support?
No, as in terms of where do we get the 978,000? Was it mostly from what type of construction?
Oh, I don't know that answer. Did we look into that? I think maybe Lydia is do we know that answer?
Counselors, Lydia Bishop, Building and Permit Services. We actually don't have that pulled apart, but I could get that for council and report back. We could differentiate between single family and multifamily. Sometimes it's a little tricky to do that because multifamily automatically goes into the commercial category.
Right, that's what.
That would be helpful, Councillor Clark. I'd be happy to provide that information and get that back to the council.
Rough estimate, rough gut feeling on where that separates out?
I would not want to hazard a guess other than to say the majority of it is going to be from multifamily.
Too, and the reason that's important is even last year, this year, the cost of construction is, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. Materials going up 400% and 500% in the last year, but last year it wasn't low cost to do so. By comparison, the 5% would be roughly 50 million in projects. Do I have that right? If we made $1 million and it's 0.5%, that's 50 million in projects to get it, right? So for comparison's sake, 7 years ago, I want to say 6 years ago, we built, the hub was built on Broadway. That was a $45 million project, just the one for 186 units. So we need to be building hundreds and hundreds of multifamily units a year to keep up with our own planning. And if you look at those numbers, that couldn't have been more than maybe 100 units of multifamily that were built last year, if that was the number, 50 million. I'd be interested in more specific detail on what we're actually seeing built and what we're incentivizing or disincentivizing to be built based on our plans and what we need to have. That's what I'm looking for with that. Is the CET having a negative impact on having housing built in our community? That's my question overall. And I'd love to have some of that underlying data, Wyndon, if you can get it.
Like I said, I'm happy to provide some of the data. As Ellen mentioned in her presentation, and as I think the council is well aware, for the first 2 years, the CET payments were offset. Right. So whether I think we'll be more likely to be able to answer that question after we have a little bit more time, because as of July 1, now is when it will actually come out of the developer's pocket. So as with most fee increases, we see an increase in permits right before July 1.
Right.
So I don't know whether we could really report on that until we've been in this fiscal year a little bit longer.
I was actually talking to somebody today who was making sure that they got their permits in before July 1st in order to afford that as well. Just for the sake of everybody, understanding what I'm driving at with this, the city of Beaverton has a recollection that with half our population is set as a goal to build at least 500 units of multifamily or single family housing per year. I'm really interested to know exactly how many units we built last year, considering that we're twice their size. And we are in a place where the cost is rising exponentially, and it's because we don't have housing built. I want to do everything possible to incentivize housing to be built, not to disincentivize. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan, and then Claire.
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, I was hoping to see the housing policy boards. They have I forget the exact name of it, but a renter protections work group. And they were working through some recommendations. And I was hoping to see that before this meeting. I wonder if someone could fill me in on the status of that. The last time we talked about it, I asked the same question. They said they were working on it. I wonder how far they've gotten. And because there's numerous ideas that were floating around in that realm, including the one-stop shopping idea, but several others that I thought were worthy of this kind of funding from the CET. So can somebody tell me what the status of that is?
Exactly. We can't hear you, Genevieve.
How's that? Okay, great. So the status of the Renters Protection Committee is they have recently finished their recommendation stage. And what they're going to be doing now is the recommendations over to the Housing Policy Board, and the Housing Policy Board does take the month of July off. And so they will be coming back on August 2nd to look at the two sets. They have a master sets of recommendations from the Renter Protection Committee, and then they will be narrowing those down to and discussing that amongst the Housing Policy Board. And we're hoping to get those and aiming to get those back to council as soon as possible after August 2nd.
You know how many recommendations are in that list right now? Ballpark.
Ballpark, I want to say 15. Right. And those recommendations, they span a broad scape. So some of them are pretty simple, and some of them would take a lot of oversight. And so that's what the next step will be doing. We'll probably be looking at the prioritization that they receive from the Renter Protection Committee and looking at the level at which it'll take to implement it.
Mm-hmm. So if we allocate this money for this idea, and I have a question about that, the idea proposed, we would have to use CET money. We'd have to wait for the next cycle, which would be a whole nother year. Is that what I'm gathering? To fund any of those proposals out of CET money?
Not necessarily. If you decide to fund rental assistance programs, we could wait on implementing those rental assistance programs until you give further direction related to the renter protections work.
So if the Housing Policy Board is going to take this up in August, maybe September, by the time we get back from summer break, we possibly could have a narrowed down list of recommendations that this funding could go towards. Is that what I'm hearing?
Potentially.
Yeah. Okay. So this other question I had was about the fact that the county said that the $34 million on top of the 12.4 that we already got for rental assistance was sufficient funds through 2025. I'm wondering why the committee recommended adding to it, and you talked about the niche, and what is it that we're doing differently? The BIPAC idea is maybe a good one, but it's only one sentence long. I don't even really know what it is. What would we be doing differently? And I guess the other part of that is, how does that intersect with the reparations conversation that we're starting to have?
So the advisory committee, I think, was recommended a minimum of 75% for housing development. So I think they were very focused on housing development, and they were hoping that the council would consider the fact that the county had so much rent assistance already. So I believe that their intention was the direct assistance would be focused more towards homeowner assistance, or specifically potentially home buyer assistance, prioritized for BIPOC individuals and households. It's not clear right now whether we can legally prioritize resources for BIPOC households. So the proposal is to, at a minimum, affirmatively market directly to BIPOC individuals and households for homebuyer resources.
What's the nature of that legal question about whether or not we can do that?
Well, it's a question that we're exploring related to the Fair Housing Act. You can't discriminate based on race, but you can't necessarily treat applicants, for example, differently based on race. So even if you wanted to benefit someone based on race, it's not clear whether that's possible.
So if we were to reserve the $333,000 for renter assistance, but hold off on determining what that was until we heard back from the Housing Policy Board on their deliberations on the Renter Protection Committee and those recommendations, would that present a problem? Because otherwise we would have to either find a new pool of money or wait another whole year to implement anything that group came to us, which they've been working on for, as far as I know, about 2 or 3 years. And time is ticking on that. So does that present a problem if we were to go that route?
Council can choose to give us direction on how you want to allocate those resources. If that's what you choose to direct, then that would work.
I think, Counselor, I think the bigger issue is really just being really forward thinking that you do want this amount to go towards the development proposals, because then that allows us to continue working with the committee on RFP criteria and keeping that moving. So as long as we know what that number is, I think the rest can be flexible.
So allocate that and hold the rest. Got it.
Okay, good. Claire and then Jennifer.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Alan and staff for this. So Alan's question kind of cleared up my confusion. I was a little confused why we had what looks like a recommendation to have 25% go to direct assistance for renters when the AIS says there's lots of money available to go to direct assistance. So I recognize now that it's not necessarily a recommendation, it's a framework for us to respond to. So I would support, just because I think there is some impact, increasing the housing development number to 1 million and reducing the direct assistance to renters and homeowners by that amount, and then holding off on the allocation of that renters homeowners assistance till we hear from the Housing Policy Board. I think there's a good rationale for putting the majority of that money towards supporting homeownership and mortgage assistance, given the amount of aid that is being provided to renters and that is available. So I don't know if I need to make a motion to that effect. I'm happy to do so if that would be helpful, but that's, I think that would be a wise way to go. That's something I would support.
Yeah, I will if you don't.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you. So Alan also asked all of my questions, so thank you very much, Councilor Zelenka. So because of that, this is maybe a question for Catherine. If we were wanting to, have that money held, the smaller amount held pending getting back this information from the Housing Policy Board, is that something that needs to be stated in the motion, or is it just something that as long as we give direction? Or maybe it's a question for Ellen, I don't know who.
I think that, either way, I'm pulling up the motion right now just to make sure, see how specific it is. The motion is specific to the attachment, so it actually breaks it down. So if what you're waiting to actually hear back from the Housing Policy Board is about how to divide that, because it's not specific how it's going to be spent in that breakdown. They're pretty broad categories. So really what you're saying is we want to divide it this way, but then we want to talk more about how that one division is going to be more specific. So you're good with the way the motion is. And with just the understanding it's going to come back for further discussion on that one kind of bucket category.
Okay, so I could do the motion as it is, and then if Claire or Alan wants to change the number, they could do that, and then we'd be good.
Mm-hmm. Yes, correct.
Okay, then thank you.
Okay, great. So Alan, one more round, and then we can put the motion on the table.
Right. Thank you, Mayor. With that understanding and the way that the motion's written is broad, that if we're going to wait to hear back from the Housing Policy Board on the renter protection recommendations and then allocate that money towards specific items, I'm good with the motion as is. Unless Claire wants to change it to add $2,000 and make it $1 million even.
Emily, you have a comment?
I thought we were making it $1 million. I'm a little confused about how much money, you know, are we raising the 75%? So can someone help me with the numbers?
The 75% for housing development comes to 998,000. And so Councillor Surratt was talking about raising it
the
$2,000.
difference? That's all it is $2,000.
To make it even.
And then we've got 400,000 for rental?
It was 333,000 for direct assistance. That would be reduced to 331,000.
Well, if we make a motion, I'll probably make it friendly to make it more than that. Like, I just think 300,000 to set aside if we're trying to build some buildings.
It's the opposite. So it would be $1 million for development, right, and 331,000 for direct.
Yeah, I had that.
Okay, so Jennifer, you want to just put this motion on the table and then there's room for amendments.
I will be happy to. So I move to direct the city manager to allocate Affordable Housing Trust Fund resources consistent with the advisory committee recommendations and as outlined in attachment D.
Second.
Okay, discussion or amendments? Claire?
So thank you, Mary. Yeah, so I would like to move to amend to increase the housing development portion to $1 million and decrease the direct assistance for renters and homeowners portion by the same amount. And it might seem silly, but there is some impact in being able to say we've dedicated $1 million to building more affordable housing units.
Right.
Second.
Okay, great. I know we have discussion on this, so I have Emily in the queue.
Thank you. I just don't think it's enough. If we want to build buildings, that we've got 300,000 over there. I like the $1 million, that's great, but I'll make a friendly to increase it to, I want to say 12, but you probably won't go for that. 1150.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second for that?
Well, Councillor Semple is proposing that as a friendly to my amendment.
Right.
So
yeah. So
can someone do math for me on what that would bring the direct assistance down to?
$181.
I appreciate the sentiment. I'm going to say no to the friendly. I think we should keep the direct assistance at least around 250,000. So we've got something to work with there. If not 300, even closer to the 330. So I'm going to reject the friendly. Could try it as a non-friendly.
Matt.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to ask councilors to adopt the motion as is, and we're kind of playing with numbers before we even know what the recommendations are from committee. And I'm eagerly anticipating and excited to see what those recommendations are. $300,000+ may not be enough for the direct assistance recommendation. So I would just ask us to pause, support the motion as is. I think Councillor Surratt's I think there's wisdom in her words in regards to being able to say that we are advancing, or we are putting our money where our mouth is, and $1 million toward building housing units that are so desperately needed. And we'll leave it at that and wait until we get a more thorough recommendation from committee.
Okay, are we ready for a vote? All in favor of this motion as amended, please raise your hands.
You're voting on the motion right now, just the motion to amend. Right?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm out of order. Right. We're just approve the motion to amend. All in favor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Have I missed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? There we go. Excellent. That passes. And now vote to approve the motion as amended. All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That is excellent. Thank you very much. And I just, just as a closing comment, I want Ellen to remind us how much money we actually get for CDBG and home funds annually as a point of comparison to really acknowledge what this lump sum means.
In home funds, which is the fund I primarily work with, we get approximately $1.2 million a year that we also share with Springfield. And I am not quite sure what our CDBG allocation is.
But so as a point, when you all as a council passed this construction excise tax, the idea was that you needed more flexible funds than the federal funds enabled, and you have essentially more than matched that federal contribution to the city by instituting this CET. So I think this is a moment to celebrate that work and that investment when we're facing such a critical housing shortage. So thank you all for your leadership doing that. And with that, we are in a housing cluster today. It's my favorite that we have council meetings that line up and are similar issues. So we are ready. Thank you, Ellen, again. Thank you, Genevieve. It's really wonderful to have you on the team and reporting to us. And we're ready for our second agenda item on accessory dwelling units.
Yep, I'm joined here by Jeff Gepper and Emily Jerome, and I think we have a short presentation and then a lot of time for you to talk.
Yeah, thank you, City Manager, and good evening, Mayor and City Councilors. Jeff Gepper, Senior Planner with the Planning Division, joined by Emily Jerome, Deputy City Attorney, here to touch base on the final. 1 second here. Sorry. There it is. So here to talk about accessory dwelling units. As you will recall, we're in the finalizing compliance phase of a process that started back in 2017. On May 12th and May 17th, we had a work session and then a public hearing at which many city councilors asked some questions of staff, which we provided answers to in the memos that were attached to your AIS. Not going to discuss those in detail. We provided them a little early to you and the public so that people could have a chance to review those leading up to today's work session. And on May 24th, we did have deliberation and action, but that was postponed due to one, giving staff a chance to respond to your questions, and two, looking at giving us an adequate opportunity to really look at the testimony that was received. And so here's a little update from your AIS. Looking at the testimony we received as of today by 2 p.m., we saw about 54% were from the JWN who were opposed or concerned with this, 8% were from the JWN in support, 22 were just general support and advocacy, and 12% were opposed or concerned. So given that we had the primary amount of people we're talking about the JWN area, we did provide council with an option B proposed ordinance to be reviewed today. And just for the record, we did reach out and talk with many community members. We attempted to meet with some of our neighborhood representatives to discuss these proposals. And what staff came up with was essentially a version of the proposed code amendments that we believe will meet the intent of the state law and also apply ADUs in a more appropriate, potentially more appropriate fashion for the Jefferson West Side neighborhood. So that's the special Jefferson West Side and special chambers, special area zones. And so in option B, what we've done is we removed where the SJW and the special chambers define ADUs in a different manner than the rest of the code. And what we did was we actually applied the university area standards for ADUs, which compared to how what it adds things like it limits building size, it limits the number of bedrooms, it has some additional standards on there that are different than, say, the standards for other ADUs in most residential zones. They're a little more restrictive. And I'll just take an opportunity here to note that option B, you'll see it's listed as attachment H in your AIS. However, at the top of option B, it did say option B, but then it said attachment G. So when we're referencing everything today, attachment H means option B and so on. So with that, just as a little highlight of kind of an example of kind of how the changes that we are proposing as staff is really, this was on May 17th when we brought forward that option to council. The JW and special area and special chambers basically had 2 full-size single dwelling units and then 2 full-size ADUs. And that was due to the way that their code was written and the way that we kind of applied state law directly to that. We find that it's probably a little more appropriate to treat them the same as the other R2 zones around town, where ADUs are subject to some size limitations, bedroom limitations, and things like that. So the scale is a little more similar to our other ADU areas. And also the ADU standards for the university neighborhoods have been passed muster with the state courts, with LUBA and the Court of Appeals. So we found that to be as important as well. And with that rapid fire presentation, I am going to hand it back to you so that you all have time to discuss. And I should ask if Emily Jerome has anything to add at this time, actually. Great. Thanks, Emily.
Okay, thank you all. And Mike, I do see that your hand is up. I'm actually going to propose that Jennifer go ahead and put the motion on the table. And so we'll have it on the table.
Good. I'm just a point of order.
Yeah.
My question is a point of order.
Okay.
Question for city attorney. I would want to make a motion to postpone 2 different things here. And I'm wondering if you can help me understand the best way to formulate this motion. I would want to postpone the conversation here until such a time as we have better resolution on the Jefferson West Side questions. I would also, based on my understanding of email traffic earlier, that Claire has some amendments as well to add to this. I would want to postpone until those had further public scrutiny. So which is the best way for me to propose a motion to postpone?
Well, so it depends on if you want to postpone conversation versus whether you want to postpone action. So you postpone action on the ordinance and postpone action on the amendments after those have been made. And so versus kind of preemptively ending the conversation, right. Because you're not going to talk about amendments that aren't on the table, and same with the ordinance. So what, and knowing that these, the ordinance.
We're going to put the first motion on, we know that. I was just talking about the difference in wanting to postpone for 2 different ideas there.
Yeah.
Is it best to do one as opposed to the other?
I think it's both. And this was one of the things, knowing that these motions were out there, I did kind of propose a schedule and provided that to the mayor and others and Councilor Semple. And so what that would be is the motion for the ordinance gets put on the table. Then if there's motions to amend that, those individually get made and discussed, and each one of those individual motions to amend can then be postponed to a date certain through an amendment. And then once you get through, because some of those could go through, if there are less controversial ones of those amendments that you actually want to vote on tonight, you can do that. Others that you may want to postpone. Then before you take action on the ordinance as amended, you would vote on a motion to postpone that somebody would make on the action on the ordinance.
At the end rather than the beginning.
Correct. If you do it at the beginning, it just ends the conversation. So if you want to end the conversation, then that would be the way to do it. And then the mayor can or cannot call that out of order if she wants to allow this motion to if you want to have the motion in the ordinance discussion, you would make your motion to postpone after the debate on the substance of the motion itself.
Thank you, Mayor. I will have a motion for that before we get to voting, if you will be kind enough to recognize at that time.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I am going to ask Jennifer to put the main motion on the table, and I'm going to propose that we begin to work our way through the amendments to discuss those. So I do want to proceed with this meeting today to work our way through these amendments and not table this conversation. Okay, take it away, Jennifer.
All right, thanks, Mayor. So I move to adopt the ordinance at attachment H, an ordinance concerning accessory dwelling, replacing the term secondary dwelling with accessory dwelling throughout the Eugene Code 1971, making additional amendments to sections 9.0500, 9.2010, 9.2011, 9.2740, 9.2741, 9.2750, 9.2751, 9.2775, 9.3065, 9.3115, 9.3125, 9.3126, 9.3210, 9.3215, 9.3310, 9.3510, 9.3625, 9.3626, 9.3810, 9.3811, 9.3815, 9.3910, 9.3915, 9.3970, 9.6410, and 9.8030 of that code, addressing the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals remand of ordinance numbers 20594, 20595, and 20625, and providing an effective date.
Second.
Okay, thank you for that, for putting that on the table. And before we jump into that general motion, I'm going to turn to Claire to put her first proposed motion on the table.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. And so this motion is something I've spoken about before as believing that we shouldn't have requirements on accessory dwelling units that don't also apply to other residential units. And in this case, that would be garbage screening. So there's no requirement for me as a owner of a single family house to screen my garbage. And I don't think we should be imposing that on ADUs either. So I move to revise the draft ordinance to eliminate the current code's requirements that ADUs screen their garbage areas by striking current sections EC 9.2751 parenthetical 17 parenthetical B4, EC 9.2751 parenthetical 17 parenthetical C19, and 9.3811 parenthetical 1 parenthetical E4.
Second.
Okay, discussion, Emily?
Thank you. I appreciate the equal idea, but equal isn't always equitable. I'm going to vote against this because I don't think, you know, 4x4 pressure treated posts and some lattice panels is going to keep somebody from building an ADU. So I don't see it as a barrier. I don't think it's a big cost. And maybe, you know, if it's unequal, we should change it so all garbage has to be screened. We're having a huge amount of garbage and people don't like looking at it. I know they're not in cans at the camps, but I think it's okay to have as part of our design that garbage is contained and not visible. So that's how I feel about that. Thank you.
Okay, Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. This is the amendment that I have the least concern with, frankly, But at the same time, in order to treat these equally, I'm going to do the same thing, which is to move to postpone until after break so that the general public has a chance to weigh in and inform us on these particular amendments, which may all be very good ones that after public testimony, I may support. But I haven't, this is new at the end of this process, and I haven't had a chance to hear any public testimony on these specific ideas. So if I get a second,
I'll second.
Thank you. I like I said, this is the one that I have the least problem with, but I will want to make that motion with each. Thank you.
Okay, discussion. I have Claire and then Randy and then Alan, I think. I looked down, so I'm not sure if I got the order right.
I believe Randy was before me.
Okay, Randy and then Claire and then Alan and then Emily.
Thank you, Mayor. I've really struggled with this. I mean, I am not one that likes to postpone things, but I'm also concerned that we do give adequate opportunity for people to express themselves, the community members. Councilor Clark, I'm wondering if you would accept a friendly to have this deadline before break. I don't know if it's possible to move that fast, but I would sure like to see this thing move forward while we still give people a chance to weigh in.
I would love to say yes to you, my friend, but it only gives us 6 operating working days to do so before break, and I just don't think it's enough time. So I'm not going to accept that friendly just because we don't have that kind of time before break.
Okay.
Okay, Claire and then Alan and then Emily and then Jennifer.
So I just want to remind the council that we've been trying to get this right since 2018. We messed it up the first time, got remanded to LUBA, had to revisit it. It is not uncommon for council to make changes to ordinances after a public hearing. We have people throughout the city who are holding off on their plans to build ADUs while they wait for us to determine where we're going to land on this ordinance. So I'm not going to support any motions to postpone. I think this particular motion is fairly benign in the scheme of things, and I am disappointed to see that it's being linked in with the other motions that I have put forward. I don't think that's practically a great way for us to be doing our business tonight, and I'm very disappointed by that. I think we should have a discussion on the merits of the motions, and that is not what's happening right now.
Alan and then Emily.
Yeah, I was wondering, Mike, your proposal was a little amorphous. It just said postpone until people can comment on it. Do you have any specific ideas about that? And we got the forum on the 26th, which I realize would be pretty soon for too many people. But then we have another forum on the 13th. Were you thinking beyond that, or were you thinking something specific that would be related to this that we'd put on the agenda as another public hearing on these all of these different ideas? I don't have a problem with having people comment on them and think about them a little bit more, although we have been talking about this for 3.5 years. So do you have any?
Mine is simply give the public an opportunity. So I'm fine with our first public forum opportunity back from break, and then get our opportunity after that. But I would say, I guess, that the 3.5 years that we've been waiting, if we're not willing to get this right now, it absolutely will get remanded from appeals court, and we will be seeing this not implemented for at least another 1.5 years. So nobody's building anything. So it'd be better for us to get it right faster.
Yeah, I guess there's a whole lot of people that don't think we get a whole lot right, that we can always change it later. So, so what you're saying is on the 13th, people should be prepared to comment on this, and then shortly after that, the council would bring this back up for deliberation and vote on all these specific motions.
September 13th.
That's the idea.
You mean September
13th is the forum, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay. Thanks.
I'll just, thank you. I don't have any sense that we have time to bring ADUs back in the next couple of weeks. So just being realistic about this, you can have a forum on the 13th, that's fine, but.
That was the 13th of September, Mayor.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that's been.
Okay. All right, I'm sorry. I missed the month. I missed the month. Thank you.
Sorry.
That helps. Okay.
Sure.
All right. Emily and then Jennifer.
I'm just going to say this because it applies to all of the motions. I agree that of the 5, this is the least controversial, and you know, I'm still going to vote against it, but it's not that huge a thing. However, we only got them on Friday, and so even if they were mentioned long ago, I don't remember a discussion about changing this many things tonight, and some of them coming up are fairly substantial. So we had 3 days, but the motions were written by June 23rd, so I'm a little confused about that. I'd like us to reschedule this after the break. That's enough.
Jennifer.
Thanks, Mayor. So I would just like to say that for this one specifically, we had specific testimony about how silly it was for us to require the garbages to be covered. And obviously, we're not going to make everyone in the city have screening for their garbage. That's ridiculous. And so we have had testimony on this. And then in 2019, when we talked about some of these issues, and we had the opportunity to do some of these things so we wouldn't get remanded, we discussed some of these very same issues back then in 2019. So this stuff is not new. We've been talking about it for a very long time. I understand that some people in our community don't agree, and that's fine. And so you vote no. But pretending that this is all new information that Claire is bringing and we've never discussed it before is just not true. We have, and we've had testimony about these same issues over and over again. Frankly, covering your garbage is a barrier. It's a small barrier, but if we're trying to make it easier for people to build housing, we need to remove every barrier we can. And so I will happily support this motion.
Okay, thank you. Claire?
I think Jennifer said she meant to support my motion, not Mike's motion, just to be clear. So I just have to respond to Councilor Semple saying that I got the motions from staff on the 23rd and I didn't send them until Friday. That is true. I work full time. I took some time off to visit my family over the 4th of July weekend. I didn't have time to review the motions until I sent them out to you all. So it was not some kind of nefarious plan on my part to sneak these by. And as Jennifer said, these reflect public testimony that we received at the public hearing, as well as in writing. The only thing I would say on this list that should be a surprise is the last one about, the last 2 about the maximum wall length, which I think we might have gotten public comment on. And then the last one about not requiring the height setbacks when a property abuts an alleyway or a right-of-way. So that is a new one. That is not one that I think has been actively discussed. So that's the reason they were sent out when I sent them out.
Okay, Mike, one last comment, and then I want to vote on this motion.
It was clear that I don't have any problem at all with when Claire put these particular amendments out. That's fine. We all do things at the time when it seems wise enough to do them. I just want to be clear that the reason for my making the motion to postpone isn't about whether or not I've heard this before or whether or not I've heard the subject discussed. It's about there are a lot of members of the general public when it comes to this specific ordinance and its first hearing that didn't get a chance to look at some of the specific ordinance language proposed in these amendments, and I want the general public to see it before we do it.
Okay, with that, I think we're ready for a vote on this motion to postpone on this specific motion related to garbage. So all,
Mayor,
Alan, question?
was Mike, I was trying to get him to do a friendly amendment to a date certain, which was the 13th for that. Is that the intent of the motion?
I think the date certain would, if I can interject, and I apologize, is that if you could make the date certain for action on proposing on this, it would be Wednesday, September 15th. If you actually, I'm hearing you say, let them come speak at the public forum. So it would be Wednesday, September 15th. It's a date certain as a postponement on the motion.
And that's where we would take it up, but we don't necessarily have to decide on that day. That's just the next time we would discuss it.
It would be, it could be postponed again, but if you're doing a postponement to a date certain on action on the motion that is on the table, I would propose it be Wednesday, September 15th.
With the form on the.
I'm sorry, Councilor Cargan. Did you have a question? I'm sorry.
I interrupted Alan. I apologize. Mine was in answering his question, do we have to have a date certain for the action in the amendment?
Yes, you should. A postponement to a date certain. Otherwise, none of you should have debated it, because a postponement to a date uncertain is a table.
Non-debatable, right?
And so I was interpreting what you were saying to be a date certain first meeting after council, which the best first meeting after council would be Wednesday, September 15th.
I was trying to help you out there, Mike.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I want to do it as soon as possible. I just didn't want to tie the mayor's hands with regard to the agenda in that way by delineating that particular day. I wanted to give you more options, but if that's the way it has to be, that's fine.
Okay. So this is moved to postpone to a date certain, which is September 15th.
Correct.
On the garbage amendment. So all in favor of postponing, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, all in support of postponing, in opposed to postponing, raise your hands. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we're postponing on that one. Okay, next motion, Claire.
Okay. This one's kind of long, so stand by. I move to revise the draft ordinance, proposed building height, interior setback requirement, and maximum building height pertaining to ADUs that are not above a garage on a sloped lot to change the proposed 10-foot and 18-foot height measurements to instead 15 and 25 height measurements by revising the second sentence of the proposed ordinances 9.2751 17A to B1 and EC 9.2751 17B5A to state as follows. In addition, at a point that is 15 feet above finished grade, the setback shall slope at the rate of 10 inches vertically for every 12 inches horizontally away from the property line until a point not to exceed a maximum building height of 25 feet, and revising the second sentence in the proposed ordinance EC 9.2775 5E1A to state as follows. In addition, at a point that is 15 feet above finished grade, the setback slope at the rate of 10 inches vertically for every 12 inches horizontally away from the property line until a point not to exceed a maximum building height of 25 feet for a detached accessory dwelling unit and maximum building height of the primary dwelling for attached accessory dwellings, and revising EC figure 9.275116B3 to change the 10-foot and 18-foot height measurements to 15 and 25-foot height measurements respectively.
Second.
And if I could speak to it briefly, so this is part, as you are aware, of a couple of motions to raise the heights in this way, and staff helped me look at the code and make sure we were capturing all the places where that occurred. And we applied this if there's another motion that applies the similar idea to ADUs that are above a garage. So that's the reason for the multiple motions. So again, this reflects public comment we received from folks affiliated with Better Housing Together, seeking to create some greater usage for ADUs, allow them to be more practical in terms of how they are built, and thereby hopefully provide us with more opportunities to actually have ADUs built, thereby working towards meeting our climate recovery goals, which requires us to build more densely rather than sprawl. And so that is the purpose of this motion, as well as several others that I hope to make this evening.
Thank you. We have Mike and then Alan.
Thank you, Mayor. Move to postpone action until September 15th.
Second. Emily, are you seconding it?
As before.
Yes, I'm seconding. It takes a while to unmute.
Right. Thank you. Discussion on this motion to postpone. Alan, let's see, I have Alan and then Randy, it looks like.
So can we ask questions about this, or do we have to ask questions only about the postponement?
No.
Postponement.
Oh, we can only discuss the postponement now? Oh,
correct.
Hey, okay, Randy?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I am for moving this thing forward, but I just feel strongly that people need a chance to speak. And I don't have the history that some of you do with this issue for many years. I'm just going on what I know. I don't generally like to slow things down or delay them, but in this case, it's significant enough, all these combined, that I just think it's important that people have a chance to weigh in. But I certainly will be coming prepared if this is delayed to making a decision on the 15th. Thank you.
Alan?
So, Mayor, the way that this is going, if Mike's the first person to make all these motions, we're not going to discuss the merits of any of these. We're just going to delay them all. I'm wondering if that's really what we're trying to do. If we want to ask some questions about them, so that could clarify staff's response and what people have to say. And then after we're done with the conversation on each of these motions, then do the motion to postpone. I would feel more comfortable about that. It might inform the conversation a little bit more. I'm wondering if Mike would withdraw his.
My motion, as long as the mayor will recognize me to make it before we get to the vote.
Yes, thank you. I promise to recognize. You can always raise your hand again if I seem to be failing in my memory, but I'll bring it back to you so that we can discuss.
Thank you. I withdraw my motion until then.
Thank you.
In that case, I have a question.
Okay.
And maybe people can address this in their testimony and staff response, but I'm unclear what 7 feet means in terms of buildability. Does that mean that you can go from 2 stories to 3 stories, or that? How does it impact what's buildable?
The testimony that was referenced earlier from Better Housing Together actually has some really good visuals. If this is going to be postponed, I'm happy to provide a reference to those in an email to council. Going up to 15 feet doesn't necessarily allow 2 stories right at the 5-foot slope setback. It would allow some design flexibility.
Does going from 18 feet to 25 allow 3 stories?
No,
It would still be 2.
It would. No, I don't think you would be able to get 3 stories in there.
I didn't think so either.
Unless you had some subgrade. I'm not going to go down that road.
Yeah, that would be helpful to clarify that. Thank you.
Any other questions? I actually have a related question. What is the height of a 2-story building typically? Do we have a general?
Typically a standard 2-story building would require at least 20 feet, thinking about 8-story, if you have 8-foot ceilings plus necessary amendments. That's with a flat roof.
So the 25 limit is comparable to what 25-foot limit is pretty comparable to what a standard 2-story house is in terms of height.
Plus the roof line, yes, that's why the above garage ADU is designed at a maximum of 25 feet. It's to allow for a taller garage area and then the ADU above it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, Mike, if you're bringing your motion to postpone back, we're not ready. So if you want to talk about this content, you can have a turn.
No, go ahead.
Okay, Alan, did you have another question?
Yeah, so does that mean an 18-foot height would preclude a 20-foot 2-story building?
Not necessarily, no.
No. Okay. That makes me a little less confused, but not much. So we can get more clarity on that. That would be good. Thank you.
Claire and then Randy.
Thank you, Mayor. So I think it's not so much necessarily to try to get more stories as to be able to have other design elements like a peaked roof and a dormer effect, maybe a loft. Certainly there might be people who are wanting to do the 2 stories, but I think we've heard that the current heights kind of, you know, if you're going to have I'm not a contractor, but a slab, right? That's going to take up some of your height and then your building. So it's allowing more flexibility in what is designed for the ADU. That's the purpose of the amendment.
Thank you. Randy.
Thank you, Mayor. Correct me if I'm wrong, 18-foot would allow for a 1.5-story building. That's for those who don't understand what that is. That's when you go into an upstairs, it has the slope of the roof that's built into it, but I believe an 18-foot would accommodate that. But generally, I know in fire department, we just estimate 10 feet per story for residential, and the commercial, we go higher.
Okay, thank you for that. I just want to comment before I let Mike go back to his motion. This is also really not a new topic. And looking back through the testimony, I think we heard and received information about this in February last year. So it's been a topic of conversation around this table, and it has been in the public conversation for quite a few months. So I do want to encourage you to really think about the fact that if you want to move forward on these pieces, that to assume that there's never enough time for people to do their homework here. I'm just a little dismayed by constantly pushing these topics along because you've spent 3.5 years on them. But with that said, I know Mike has a motion to postpone, and you can now put it on the table.
Thank you, Mayor. So moved until September 15th.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of a motion to postpone, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, 5. Okay, there we go. All opposed to postponing, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3. And it looks like the Deputy City Attorney has a comment.
I just wanted to make it clear in the motions that were prepared for Councilor Syrett, there's a lot of detail because we wanted to enable you to take action tonight if that was your pleasure. It's clearly not. So as you make these motions, Councilor Syrett, it's sufficient for you to stop right before the word "by," and we can get into the detail on September 15th.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So we are now, Claire, we're ready for your third motion.
Thank you, and thank you, Emily. I appreciate you saving us all a little bit of time for the inevitable postponements. I move to revise the draft ordinance, proposed building height, interior setback requirements pertaining to a backyard ADU that is above a garage or on a slope lot to increase the proposed height at which the roof line may begin to slope upwards from 18 feet to 22 feet.
Second.
And so this is the same, essentially in the same vein as the prior motion, but taking that standard and applying it to ADUs above a garage or on a slope lot.
Okay, any further discussion about this before I turn it over to Mike? All right, Mike, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. Move to postpone action until September 15th.
Second.
Any discussion about that? All right, all in favor of the motion to postpone, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those opposed? 1, 2, 3, and that passes. So that's postponed. Councilor Surratt, Clara, next one.
You're muted, Councilor Surratt.
Thank you very much for the assist. I move to revise the draft ordinance to eliminate the current code's maximum wall length for detached ADUs by striking concurrent sections EC 9.25, 2.751, 17B6, and EC 9.2571, 17C20.
Second.
So this, we were asked about this, and in meeting with one of the contractors that I met with, who's working with a homeowner on trying to build an ADU for her. You know, this came up that we have this requirement that basically you can't just have a flat wall for a certain length. You have to build a bend into it for no reason really whatsoever. It's supposedly to break up the facade in terms of the visuals. It adds cost to building ADUs. It adds cost to building ADUs. And its only purpose is so that the homeowner on the other side doesn't have to look at a flat wall. So I'm not sure where our values are in terms of trying to provide code that creates more affordable housing, but mine fall on the side of getting rid of this requirement.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments about this motion? Councilor Semple, I will let you step in since.
Well, I'm going to shock everybody and not second to postpone this one. I think it's fine. So just, you know.
Okay, thank you. And then Councilor Clark, you're up.
And for the record, when this comes back up for action, it seems like a reasonable one to me as well. I'd probably vote in favor of this one too. That seems like a reasonable thing, and I know it adds to cost. That doesn't change the simple fact that I want to hear from the public to be able to learn something I may not know. And that's the reason for my motion, not because I particularly personally agree or disagree with it. So I will move to postpone action until September 15th.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor of a motion to postpone, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that also is postponed. And Claire, your fifth one.
Thank you. I move to revise the draft ordinance proposed building height interior setback requirements for ADUs to make the slope setback requirement inapplicable where a property line abuts a public right-of-way or private street.
Second.
And so this also came about in that same conversation with this contractor and his client about the fact that that particular property and abuts an alley, and then across the alley is a commercial building, and where this ADU is going to potentially be sited in the backyard of this property, there is no other resident to be impacted by it. And even if there was a resident, they'd be 12 feet away at minimum across the alley. And for this particular ADU, they were trying to situate the building in such a way as to create as much contiguous green space as possible. And our code was forcing them to rotate the whole building in such a way that it doesn't really make sense on the lot anymore in order to maintain that setback requirement for that part of the fence that actually looks out on an alley. So this is staff's solution to allow an exception when that part of the property line abuts an alley, public right of way. So that would also include a sidewalk that's not impacting another person's property right on the other side of it.
Okay, thank you. Emily, comments?
Thank you. This is another one I like, and I know I just voted the way I said I wouldn't, but Mike talked me into it. If we're gonna encourage the public to comment on the rest, we should let them comment on all of them. However, I have a friendly because they can be really narrow. You know, it could be 2 feet sidewalk, and that wouldn't be great. So I'd like to say, in addition, to amend, I say, in addition, except where the setback is from a property line abutting a public right of way of at least 10 feet width or private street at a point. So I just to add in that he's 10 feet.
Yeah, I'm not going to accept any friendlies tonight.
Okay, well, I would make them. I'm
not feeling particularly friendly.
Okay, I don't blame you.
Okay, so Mike, are you poised?
Postpone action until September 15th.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor of postponement? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? 1, 2, 3. Okay, that item is also postponed. And so now,
so you have on the table right now your main motion to adopt the ordinance unamended, because the amendments have been postponed. If you want to discuss the substance of the main ordinance, then I would encourage that debate to occur before a motion is put on the table to postpone action until September 15th.
yes, and we only actually have a few minutes left in this meeting, so we can do a quick round of discussion that will set us up for that. And so Mike, your hand is raised, and I'm assuming that's it with a motion to postpone. Am I correct?
I do have a question, but it's not that critical to do tonight. I will have the motion to postpone.
Okay. All right. Emily.
I guess I'm not supposed to talk. Now I forgot what I was going to say. So, I think that it's really important that we postpone. JWN really has been trying to make a meeting so they could collaborate, and that hasn't been able to happen yet. I asked for it to happen at my last meeting. So I think that that's really important to let that also be discussed. So we'd like to postpone.
Okay. Mike, you're on.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move to postpone, and I'll speak to it if I get a second.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you. This is, I want to be able to, number one, consider Claire's amendments when we pass the thing, as I'm certainly probably will at the time, after postponement. But I guess there's a question I have for Jeff, and my question would be, is there any part of what the folks in collectively from JWN have suggested in the way of their preferred alternative here that wouldn't pass muster with 1051?
That's a legal question. So Jeff, if you'd like me to jump in, I'll respond. It depends on a couple things. One is I disagree with what you're hearing about requirement for notice and hearing. The most recent proposal.
I'm saying if it were council's will to agree with.
Right, so I think that you would have to, in the most recent proposal from them, it would require first to be legal, notice and an opportunity to come to a public hearing. And if you did that, then I think it depends on whether the court ultimately decides that we can count ADUs in density. I would, you know, the odds are low that they would be okay with that, but it is not a specific, it's not something that they have specifically addressed at this point. We know that DLCD has said we can't count ADUs in our density calculations, but as I've told you many times, DLCD's recommendations aren't binding on us. And we have a Court of Appeals who's pretty hostile to the idea, but it's not clearly, I can't tell you it's definitely unlawful until I go to court and try my best and lose.
As a side note to that question, where in our code and where in our comp plan does it say that an accessory dwelling is not a dwelling?
An accessory dwelling is a dwelling.
Okay, so it's I'm asking that question specifically with regard to how it's counted in density calculation. So in other words, if I have an acre of land and I want to build 12 houses on it and 14.4 is my ceiling, and I want to put an ADU on every one of those, can I?
Well, that's the policy question for you guys right now. And it's not an easy one. I spoke with DLCD last week and basically posed that same question because they had so much to do with drafting the law. And what I was told by Gordon Howard is that DLCD's position is that accessory dwelling means literally an accessory use. So that if we do allow an ADU on a single family dwelling, that it is counted as one dwelling. It's an accessory use to the single family dwelling. I don't know if the courts would agree with that.
This is why I want to postpone, by the way, because I don't think we're done with this, and we don't have specific what we will be in appeal on this.
Yeah, I will tell you, I think it's highly unlikely that we'll have I'll be able to tell you anything more or different in September. I mean, I'll watch.
Thank you. I hope that my colleagues will support that we have a little bit more work to do here.
And Councilor Clark, just for clarification, you made up just a generic motion to postpone. Can I assume it's a motion to postpone until Wednesday, September 15th?
Correct.
So I'm good. Sorry. Baffled by my mute system at this critical moment. So I believe we're ready for a vote on this final postponement. Councilor Semple. Emily, you want to speak to it?
Just really quickly, I think it's really important that we give this extra time, but it doesn't mean that I'm against all these motions. I just want people to have that extra time. So I know I've seemed very unfriendly, but it's not necessarily the outcome. And thank you.
Looks like both Alan and Randy would like to speak. So Alan and then Randy.
Yeah, I think it's up to people to make the case on September 13th to match the rhetoric that we got in the email that these are going to be the ruin of neighborhoods. I'm not convinced that that's true. I'm not convinced that they're that good either. I have to think about it some more, but they seem pretty marginal, especially since they're not going to result in 3-story ADUs. But we still have to make sure that that's the case. But so people need to make their case on the 13th that why they think that these changes would result in something that's just horrible for neighborhoods.
Okay, Randy and then Claire.
Thank you, Mayor. Just quickly, Councilor Semple basically stated what I wanted to say is, Yeah, I am for moving this thing forward, but I just one more time want to give people a chance to make sure their voices are heard. I think that's really important in our community, and especially now, anything that looks like it didn't have access for public comment, I think just puts us in a bad position. So that's why I'm voting along this line. Thank you.
Claire and then Greg.
So as far as I could see, none of the emails raising concerns about my motions addressed the merits of the motions at all, and instead engaged in borderline character assassination, accusing me of things that I have not done and did not do. So a personal attack on one of your fellow counselors, and then waved the same "we need more time" flag that we've received from the same group of folks every time we've approached taking an actual vote on the things that we are elected to make decisions on.
Thank you. Greg.
Thanks, Mayor. Let me ask this question. If we get to the 15th, we hear folks out, when would be the next time that we can vote on this after the 15th?
They're being postponed. Action is being postponed until the 15th. So it would be the 15th that you'd be scheduled.
We could do it that same night.
Correct, because the 13th is actually the Monday meeting where I thought I heard.
So we're the Wednesday meeting.
Correct.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, Matt.
Thanks, Mayor. This might come to a surprise to folks who haven't visited Camp Keating, but I am coming to you live from an ADU. It's not a detached unit, but nevertheless, during COVID, my roommate occupies the front side of the house. I occupy the back side of the house. I have my own kitchen. I'm doing the math in my head. I'm wondering where the height of my unit starts. Does it start at my front door, which is actually the back door of the house? Or does it start at the bottom of the house? So really only one of these, only one of the motions made tonight really, I think warranted a larger discussion. And there were a great many common sense items, Mayor, that could have been solved tonight. And I'm disappointed that we didn't tackle in the midst of a housing crisis some of those common sense issues, like, do I need to put a screen over my garbage because I happen to live in an accessory dwelling unit? It makes no sense. So I encourage colleagues to perhaps, let me phrase it this way, regardless of the amount of emails or rhetoric we hear from public comment on September 13th, there are a whole host of folks who need affordable pathways to live. There are families that need to be kept together. Quite literally, a mother-in-law cottage, keeping a family unit together, is a desirable thing for our community. Neighborhoods are not going to be ruined by more folks living in neighborhoods affordably. I'll be voting no to postpone any further housing amendments tonight, Mayor. And come mid-September, I'll be enthusiastically supporting anything we can do to remove barriers to allow folks to build affordably and live affordably in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will just add one additional comment, which is that before the May meetings on accessory dwelling units, I, like all of you, received a stack of postcards of people asking us to act on this issue. So the delay is an affront to people who have been asking for action for a long time. And, you know, I will be honest, I'm not happy with the delay. I think this information has been out there readily available for people who are tracking it. And I'm frustrated by this path, but I'm glad that we will have a date certain on September 15th in which we can bring this one home. So with that, I open it for a vote to delay on the main motion. All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those opposed? 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. So we are complete with that item. We will come back in September with that. Thank you all for your deliberation. Thank you, Claire, for all the motions, and we'll see you at 7:30.